What's going on, Pirates fans? Welcome to the Seton Hall Pirates basketball Facebook community, where today we're going to be doing something a bit different. I'm David Smith, and I serve on the board for the group. I'm also the youngest grandson of Richie Regan, for those of you that don't know me, so my whole family and I bleed Pirate Blue. So our community is the largest SHU basketball community on Facebook and the most interactive on social media, as we cover game threads, former SHU player profiles, SHU players in the G League and overseas, and of course, media on the Pirates' current team as well. Today, we're joined by the Jerry Carino, a legendary writer, news columnist, and sports reporter for the Asbury Park Press covering the Seton Hall Pirates. Jerry, many thanks for being here with us. It's an absolute honor to be in the virtual presence of someone so accomplished and knowledgeable about our beloved Pirates.
Well, I have to tell you, first of all, David, you're light years ahead of where I was at 18 years old. God bless you, man. I mean, you are ready for prime time already. So that's awesome to do this. I'm so happy to communicate with the fans. One of the things that stinks most about this pandemic from a reporter's perspective is I don't get to see the fans. You know, I love going to the games and schmoozing with people in the seats. And that's a real bummer. So it's great to be able to do this. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bummer for all of us. I love watching my Pirates. It's the biggest part of my life. So you've been fortunate enough to have a strong pulse on the Seton Hall Pirates program for many years now. And we wanted to hang out and get to know you better and how you got the success you have earned over these years. So Jerry, to start, tell us about your life. What was Jerry Carino like in high school, and how did he end up attending Seton Hall as a student?
So this is good. I don't really talk about this stuff very much. So yeah, I'm happy to tell you. So I'm from Old Bridge, originally from Brooklyn. Moved to Old Bridge at a young age, and I went to Madison Central High School. I played basketball and soccer growing up, from as early as I can remember through middle school. And when I got to high school, I was always the fastest kid in my class, and the track coach recruited me. So I ran cross country in the fall, and then I was going to do spring track. But in the winter, I wanted to play basketball, and I had a hoop in the yard. Was played all the time with my free time. That's all we did was play basketball. So I try out for the basketball team, and I thought I had a real good tryout. I got cut, and this is a freshman team at Madison Central, and to this day, I've always convinced myself that I was cut because the track coach wanted me on winter track instead. Who knows if that was true? Probably not, but I probably wasn't too good. But I did do winter track, and then I did spring track, and I did it for 4 years. And then I went on to do it for 2 more years in college, which I'll get to in a little bit. But so in high school, yeah, I was a track guy. I was always interested in media. I was involved in a high school newspaper, and I love college basketball. I remember sitting in class with my friends and filling out the NCAA tournament pool and exchanging money like $5 to enter, trying to keep tabs on the noon Thursday games on the first day of the NCAA tournament in high school. I mean, before, no one had a phone. How did you get a score? So it was like word of mouth and who would call home, So it was, I've always loved it. And I came of age, like your age, a little younger than you, when Seton Hall made the Final Four in 1989. And it was just a great era for college basketball in the metropolitan area. Rutgers was good. They were in the NCAA tournament a couple of times. Seton Hall was a national power. St. John's was a national power. Princeton was really, really good every year. So it was a great time to come of age, and it got in my blood early. My father was a football, baseball guy, from the old school football, baseball, New York Giants, New York Yankees. He never was raised on college basketball, but I remember my dad, turning the TV on in the early 80s, mid 80s and say, "Hey, this sport's exciting, man. We got to watch more of this." And plus there were guys whose names ended in vowels, Valvano, Massimino, Carlissimo, Carnesecca. So, Patino, this attracted my father and interested him. Vital on the TV, Italian guys, exciting sport. Jerry, we're watching this. So that's how I got started. Now, when it came time to choose a college, I applied to 3 schools: Villanova, Seton Hall, and Rutgers. I wanted to stay local. I wanted to be, I didn't want to leave the area. I love New Jersey, and I got into all 3, and I thought I was going to go to Rutgers because that's where all my friends from high school went. I even had a roommate picked out. And then, Seton Hall was the only school that really recruited me, not for track. They invited me to join the track team, but they really recruited me as a student. And I remember, I got a partial scholarship, but also I remember them sending me they sent me a little plastic blue basketball from the 1991 Big East Championship Elite Eight team. And they had just come off, this is my senior year now. They had just come off that great run, which we're going to relive in the next couple of weeks, right? It's a 30th anniversary, which makes me feel really old, David. They sent me this little ball, and I remember my mother saying, you know what? Out of the 3 schools you got into, Seton Hall is the one that really wants you. Like, maybe you should really think about going there. And I think she kind of nudged me to do it. I went, and I got to tell you, I had the time of my life. We'll talk about that next, but it was definitely a great move and sort of set me on the path for the rest of my life.
I'm very happy that you did end up making that decision. So to go back to what you said about being in the school newspaper in high school, so I'm assuming you were a writer for the Setonian. Is that so? And did you anticipate one day covering the Pirates full time?
So I get to Seton Hall, and I always knew I wanted to go into the media, right? It's always just something that interested me from a young age. So I joined the Setonian, and I joined WSOU. Now, there's a guy who you probably know, and your viewers, readers will probably know. His name is Bardia Shah Reyes. Bardia is a high-up coordinating producer with Fox Sports 1, right? He's a couple Emmys. I think he produces their baseball show. He does a lot of college basketball. So Bardia and I were classmates and good friends. We're still friends. And Bardia was the WSOU sports director, and I was the editor-in-chief of the Setonian. This is later, as we were juniors, seniors. And I basically made a deal with Bardia. I gave him an editor spot in the Setonian, and he gave me a show on SOU. And that's kind of how I got involved. So I used to do a talk show, a sports talk on WSOU, and a call-in show, an hour on a Thursday night. Sometimes they did the Sunday night show, the Pirate Prime Time that's still around. And then and Bardia worked in the Setonian. So I did both. I love the student media. It was the best training ever, better than any class I ever took. And then I knew I wanted to go into this. So I did track for 2 years at Seton Hall, right? And it was a big commitment. The track team was really good. I was really good in high school, but when I got to Seton Hall, I wasn't that good because this is an elite team with all Americans, a top 25 Big East championship team. I even brought something out of I dug something out of my dresser for you, my Big East championship ring. This is
that is beautiful.
That's my name with the wing foot. So I was on the Big East championship track team in 1993. Now, I'd love to lie to you and say that I scored a whole lot of points. I didn't. I was like a scrub, but I was there. We took the bus up to the Carrier Dome. On the way home, Brian Spooner, who was big-time All-American distance runner, he's in the Seton Hall Athletics Hall of Fame. Brian Spooner gets a case of Lowenbrow, sneaks it into his bag, and we drank it on the bus on the way home to celebrate.
There you go.
So anyway, 2 years of getting my butt kicked on the track team, and I said, you know what? I got to start a career path here. So I was doing the student media a little bit, and I said, I really got to get more involved in the Setonian and SOU, and that's when I stopped doing track after 2 years, and I started just focusing on media, and I started eating and drinking more, and I went from a 125-pound college sophomore to the more rotund sports writer you see today. So I did not cover a whole lot of basketball in college. I did a lot of news stuff. I was always interested, but I did do the women's team in '94. I covered them on their run to the Sweet 16, which was a lot of fun with Dana Wynn and Jody Brooks, great team. So yeah, when I got out of college, I thought I wanted to go into media, but I didn't necessarily want to be a sports writer. I just wanted to do some sort of anything in reporting, and that's the first job I got, was covering high school sports.
That's awesome. So let's talk about journalism more generally now. So knowing it's a challenge for journalists to advance their careers, you must have had to take part-time jobs or grind it out to gain experience. Talk us through this time of your life, and what would be your advice to someone in a similar boat?
Right. So I get out of school. Well, first of all, when I got out of Seton Hall, I couldn't get a job in the media. So I went to grad school to Columbia for my master's.
Wow.
So I went there for a year. It was a 1-year program. And then when I got out of there, I had a part-time job offer at the Home News Tribune, which is my hometown newspaper, because I knew the sports writer there because he used to write about me when I was in high school. So I kind of kept in touch with him. Greg Tafaro, his name is, and he got me the job, and he's still a colleague of mine. We're still friends. I owe him a lot. So I started working 29 hours a week, no benefits, $10 an hour. And I started teaching on the side. I had a master's, started teaching journalism at Kane University on the side to make some extra money. I lived at home with my parents for a few years because, how can you move out on that kind of money? But I wanted to do it. So I covered high school sports, which was fun, a lot of fun. And I for 2 years, and I finally got a full-time job. There was an opening. I got promoted to full-time, and then eventually I was able to move out and start a normal life.
Seize every opportunity you get.
Right.
Know when something could slip open.
David, my students, I still teach. My students ask me all the time, do you want to get promoted to cover the NBA or the NFL? And I said, promotion? That's not a promotion. I would turn that down at this point.
Doesn't get better than college basketball.
It's a great sport, and it's great to cover because you really get to know people. Like when I go to a Seton Hall or Rutgers game or practice, there's a couple reporters there, but I get to know the players and the coaches. You cover the Yankees or the Giants, you're just a number. You don't get to know these athletes. They don't really want to know you. You don't have that kind of access. So I love what I'm doing, and I've invested so much time into it. There's not another beat I would take, to be honest. If it was,
that's a great way to think of it.
It wouldn't be a promotion at all. I would turn those beats down in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm. So I know if it was me, my mother would have a heart attack if I told her that I was covering the Pirates. So your family and peers must have been so excited for you. What was it like to break the news to your family that you were going to be able to cover your alma mater full time?
Well, I don't remember. It's so long ago, and it happened in such a weird way. It's 2003 now, 17 years. I don't remember.
Yeah, I was born actually.
My dad has always been excited. My dad's a big fan of the team. My brother's an alum, so he follows it. So it's fun for the family. My wife's an alum. There's a lot of Seton Hall in my blood here. But also, David, you gotta turn that off when you do the job too. So it's good in a way because I have familiarity with Seton Hall. I know the history. I know the culture like only an alum could. But the same token, you have to turn off that alum fan part to do the job. So I don't really think of it that way as like my alma mater very much. I'm doing it today because this is for your audience, but I think of it as I'm the New Jersey college basketball beat writer, and this is one of my main responsibilities. So I think I think my family does get a kick out of it, given our ties to the school. But at the same time, I'm a reporter first, and then an alum way second.
Like you said, using your sources correctly and making sure they're the right quotes is number one on the importance for journalism, and objectivity is number two. You got to remain unbiased. So let's talk about your first year covering the Pirates. What was the energy like then surrounding the program, and how much has it grown over the years?
Well, I had a great first year. It was one of my favorite years, actually. It was 2003, 2004, Andre Barrett's senior year. And, that was a terrific team, one of the best teams that they've had in the time I've been on the beat. It was fun to cover. Andre Barrett's a great guy. Marcus Toniel was terrific with reporters. Graham Billmeyer's on the team. He's a freshman. Donald Copeland, who I love, is an awesome dude. He's coaching at Wagner now. So, yeah, that was a fun group to cover. It was a terrific team. It was a great introduction. The culture was good, I thought. So they were an NCAA tournament team. They went to the second round. They beat Arizona in a wild, thrilling game where they came back from 14 down. And I loved it. I totally soaked it up. That's one of the things that really got me hooked, I think. That first impression is important, and it made a great first impression on me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Seton Hall has experienced several NCAA tournaments, Big East championship appearances, and victories over powerhouses. What moment stands out to you the most, and why?
That's a good question, boy. There's been a lot of them over the years. The first year covering the team when they beat number 4 Pittsburgh in double overtime, still the highest ranked win they've had. Oh no, highest ranked regular season win they've had since I've covered the team. They've beaten Villanova at 3 a couple times. That was incredible because it was Big Monday, double OT. Pittsburgh was fourth. They won by a point or two. Andre Barrett made a free throw. He had played like 48 minutes. He hadn't had 50 minutes. Didn't have a break. Made a free throw. He could barely pick up his arms. Missed the first one, made the second. And it was just a thrilling, like that was a, wow, I get to do this for a living moment, you know? So that was great in 04. And then, there was some rough years. The Bobby Gonzalez years were tough. There was a lot of, antagonism between the media and the coaching staff. The players, there were a lot of issues with the players, as everybody knows. And then the last 5-6 years have been great. I mean, when you cover a team, it's not so much that you root for the team, but you root for the story, and it's a good story when the team is good. People are interested. It's fun to interact with the players and coaches and fans, and it's interesting things to write when the team is good. So winning that Big East tournament title in 2016 when Seton Hall did that, that was really thrilling. It was a memorable moment for me because it was just a couple of weeks after my mom died, and she had leukemia, blood cancer, and it was a very traumatic event for all of us. And then my dad was there that day. My friends brought my dad to the game, so it was a really big deal, emotional moment for him. It was a big deal for me that he was there, and it was exciting. It was a first taste of that big stage. And that Seton Hall has been pretty well on that stage ever since. Let me see. That was a big one. So 2016, and then 2018.
I know for me, it's got to be Kentucky. That I was at the Kentucky game at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, that was a good one.
The environment for that was just that, and Villanova at the Big East tournament when they won in 2016. Those two games stand out to me.
The final was great. It was a really memorable night. And it's still to this day is the most widely read Seton Hall game story I've ever written. Was the crazy semifinal against Marquette in 2019.
Because so much happened in that game.
The game was 3 hours long. There were a zillion fouls. There were a bunch of ejections. Powell goes to the locker room, thought he was tossed, and comes back. And the crowd was ready to, it was a drunken Friday night Garden crowd, late night. And the crowd was ready to storm the court, it felt like.
Mm-hmm.
I was there till 4 a.m. And
wow.
And so it was wild. So the Big East had arranged for these official to be interviewed and gave us the quotes. And then none of the I was pissed off because none of the Seton Hall players talked other than, Miles came in to the interview. He came into the press conference, but Seton Hall closed their locker room, which had never happened before in the Big East tournament, always had open locker rooms. So I was mad about that, and I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. But it was that was a very memorable moment because of all the feedback from around the country and how viral that whole thing went. So anyway, I was angry that we didn't get to interview all the players, after the game, and I tweeted something about it. It's part of my job as the dean of the beat is to stand up for media access, right? And I do it every now and then. I did it earlier this year when we didn't get any players after the Iona game. And, the coaches, they don't take it personally. They know it's part of the give and take of the business. But anyway, so Seton Hall, it's midnight, whatever, everyone leaves. I get home at 4 a.m, and I go home. I drive home I live in Burlington County. My wife is from South Jersey. So I get up in the morning at 8 o'clock. I sleep 3 hours. And I get a text from Willard explaining why they didn't make players available. And this is part of the inside give and take that goes on. This is the morning of the Seton Hall, Villanova Big East championship game. Willard texted me to explain why they didn't get players. And it was actually somewhat of a legitimate reason in that the rule is the winning team goes first in the Big East tournament with the media. And it's after midnight, right? But anyway, Wojo, the Marquette coach, he violated the rule. He barged into the media room first and did his thing first, making Seton Hall wait 15, 20 minutes. And Willard was like, you know what? It's after midnight. We got a championship game tomorrow. I'm sending these guys home. So he sent the players home, except him and Miles Powell. And in that context, it made more sense. So, this is the type of give and take you have that goes on behind the scenes. That was a really memorable overall day and next morning covering the team.
That is a really good reason. I mean, even I heard as a player, Wojo was a bit of a hothead at Duke. I mean, you saw it after that game too. He didn't shake Miles Powell's hand. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm the biggest fan of him. So, I mean, that is a very legitimate reason. So, tell us about working with the current staff. What kind of understanding is there on both sides as how to cover the program?
Yeah, it's good. So Kevin is a really fascinating guy, right? He's very private. He's not into the schmoozing, glad handing part of the job. Obviously, he's a very good coach, and he does a great job mentoring the players, which is the most important. That's the most important thing, right? He wins, and he also represents the school, and his players represent the school very well. But it takes a long time to get to know Kevin and to gain his trust and to develop a rapport with him. Whereas, for example, like Steve Peichel at Rutgers comes in, and like within a year, you feel like you've known him forever, and vice versa. He treats you like a long lost brother. Kevin, that trust is developed over a period of years, several years. So over the last couple of years, we've gotten, I think, Kevin and the writers who cover the team regularly for a long time have gotten to really have a good rapport with him and understand, where he's coming from, and that's the thing. Kevin doesn't do a whole lot of press conferences. He doesn't do a whole lot of major media. But if one of us texts him or call him, he'll call back, or he'll respond to the text. And if we ask for a player to interview a player, it gets arranged. If we ask to come to practice, it gets worked out. Not this year because of the COVID, but it gets worked out. So it does, it's about relationship building, right? And so that's kind of what we've done over the past few years and built up a trust and a relationship. And so at this point, after 11 years of working with Kevin, we know each other and our relationship is good.
So besides college hoops, what other interests do you have that some might be surprised by? Given your Italian heritage, maybe some bacca ball or cooking chicken parmesan?
What are my interests? I only do 3 things, David. I do the job, which is covering sports and also some news column and stuff. I teach journalism class, and I raise my kids. I mean, my kids are 10 and 8. I'm in my son's room right now because it's quiet. This is where I do a lot of the Zoom stuff with the team. My son's got a nice little desk set up. The rest of the house is chaos. So unless it's late at night and he's sleeping, I do it in here. That's really all I do. I mean, I only do those 3 things, especially now in this pandemic. Like, there's nothing to do. So whatever hobbies I had have kind of atrophied, and I'm just like a dad, a reporter, and a teacher. And that's what it is. I laugh about bocce ball because I got a set in the yard and I teach the kids how to play when it's nice, So, and I have bikes, we ride bikes, me and the kids. But everything I do is through their prism, basically, at this point. I do, much like Coach Willard, I do like a glass of red wine now and then. Sometimes a little more than now and then on the weekends, depending on the day. We do have that in common. But really, that's what it is. When you get to this stage of life, your hands are full with the stuff. And the other thing is, if you do the job right, it's not just a job, it's a lifestyle. So the hobby is the job at this point.
So I got one more question for you. And it's the most important. So how do you feel about being a member and superstar in the official Seton Hall Pirates basketball Facebook group?
Well, I got to say, first of all, the Facebook group does a great service to fans. You guys have done a terrific job. Love going on there. It's just a great one-stop shop for fans to do things. And there's things on there that I don't do, like you're doing the G League stuff, which is an awesome service. Like, I just don't have time to keep up with all that. I mean, yeah, I've been watching Miles Powell and keeping an eye on Rowe and Q, what they're doing, in the G League, but I don't really have time to track that stuff. You're going to do that. That's going to be a terrific service for fans. I don't do a ton of the recruiting stuff, partially because I have other jobs. Like, I have other things I have to do. I write these news columns, these human interest features. I'm covering Rutgers. I'm helping out with high school sports. So I don't have time to track all the recruiting. When I hear that a recruit is going to be like imminently commit, then I get interested and pay attention, or if they're a local guy. But so you guys can add that stuff. So that Facebook page covers the recruiting and it tracks the alums, and it's a great it's a bar, it's like a tavern. It's like a tavern on the internet for Seton Hall fans. and it's cool to be part of that. And I love it. And I love interacting. I love the readership that we get there. The traffic that we get there is great. And it's super. So I'm so glad to do this. I told Patrick, I'll tell you, I'll do anything I can to help you guys, because you guys have helped me promote my stuff. Anything I can to help your community, I'll be happy to do it. The give and take of the reporters and the fans and the readers, that's the lifeblood that keeps you going.
Thank you so much. So, well, Jerry, this was a thrill for me, and I know it will be for all of our members on behalf of the community. So for those of you wanting to interact with a vibrant Seton Hall crowd, do join our community, as the URL will be included in this interview. So, Jerry, thank you so much for joining us. Hazards at forward, and go Pirates.
Great.
I'm Smith. This is Jerry Carino. Thank you for watching.